Okay, let's do a little bit of organization and setting it up in the scene as we had talked about earlier that this post is supposed to be sitting on the ground. So I want to move the entire stairwell up. And I suppose if I had done that at the beginning of instantiating the step, that would be done, but it's perfectly fine to do it at this point. We can select all of the steps groups, the handrail, the banisters, the banister first and last, and then all of the banisters. With that all selected, you can group it. And that will go to the origin. And now we can set that, if we go to the front view, determine how many units below we are. If I remember correctly, it's 13, right? No, 18. That's right, 18. So we want to move up, relative transform, up on the y-axis for this group, 18 units. And now we're sitting on the ground. And then we want to take the pivot point of this group and move it down to 0. We want the pivot point in the world space to be 0. And we could do that, by holding D, but I think it's just as well to learn that you can do that here in the attribute editor. 0, 0, and that's the pivot point. And you can see how the local space pivot shifts. So the pivot in world space is going to be 0, 0. So now we're absolutely at the center of the worlds. Rename this group. Select any remaining curves and surfaces and put them on their respective display layers. And if you have any remaining surfaces, select those, but we don't have any visible. I don't have any visible. And if you do, put those on their surfaces layer and make them invisible, hide them. Yeah, I really like this piece. It adds, and the reason I use it in assignments is that it has, really good basic strategies for seeing lots of the same thing and learning how to control that. There's that stuff academically, but then there's, visually it's compelling. There's a lot of different ways we could frame the camera and see this, and see the shadows creating lines, and we could look at it down this direction, and because we have an interesting step, we can look up underneath it, and it's kind of an interesting step. It's got a good curves to it, and it just in general is a interesting piece that adds visual texture. For the moment, you can leave everything as it is here in the outliner. When you're ready to bring this to another scene for the purposes of rendering, it'll be in your best interest to combine the objects into one mesh. And that will, as we talked about earlier in the first hour of Chapter 7, this creates a node-heavy scene. For now, keep things separate so you can work on it. But when you're ready to bring it to an actual renderable scene, you want to combine things down so that Maya has fewer things to consider. I think it would be good to add just some finishing details to really cement this piece to be finished, like a first floor, second floor, and a piece of steel where it actually has a sense of connecting to the ground. We saw that in some of the other references. Like here in this reference, there is this steel plate, most likely a column that's set into the concrete that this pipe sits into in order to stabilize it. Let's make one. Just bring in a polygon object, do a little bit of sculpting to make this little steel plate down here for the first floor. Yeah, so I made mine, and I'll give it a little name, foundation plate, something like that. Middle click, drag and drop, add it to the staircase group, and then add a floor to the scene. Make it big, 500. Give it a few divisions. Maybe too many. Let's do 20. That's good. Apply a material to that floor. So let's give it Fong. And In the color, give it a texture. Hit the little checker mark icon. Give it the 2D texture checker pattern. Hit number 6 on your keyboard so you can see it. Go to the Place 2D texture and change Repeat U and B to, say, 20 by 20. That looks good. So basically, so what is this? Is this a 20 by 20? No, this is 500 by 500. So what does that make? Centimeters wide per tile. What is that? Just curious. What's the dimension per tile? Let's make it an even number. It looks like each tile is, 5, 10, 12 and a half. Let's set this to 25 by 25 divisions. And then under the texture, Place 2D texture, set that to 25 by 25. And there we go. So now we've got 20 by 20 centimeter tiles. This is what I have so far. Name that object floor. Floor 1. Duplicate it. Make that floor 2. Move floor 2 straight up and snap it to the grid unit that would be right where the wood. Should we have it right at the top of the wood or just below the wood where the steel is? What do you think? Where do you think it should be? Should that last step be slightly above the floor or level with the floor? Probably level with the floor, right? So let's snap it level to the floor. And then let's cut a hole to let the staircase through. Okay, center of the stairwell is right there. So do we cut a square hole or do we cut a round hole? What do you think? I think the hole should be round. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this selection, and I'm going off the fly here. I'm going off the cuff here. So I'm going to make this selection and delete it. All right. Then I'm going to select the outer edge loop, this inside edge loop, and count how many vertices are in this. So let's go get my PC here. I have 44 edges. Let's convert that to vertices. Select Convert Selection to Vertices. I have 44 vertices selected. Get a polygon cylinder. Bring it all the way up. Give it a little bit of diameter, a little bit of radius. That almost matches that's actually pretty good. Give it 44 divisions. Let's snap it level. Actually, this is a good idea. Let's snap it level. Let's go to the front view. Let's remove the bottom polygons of this object. Delete all of them. Then set the pivot point. So go back to Object. Set the pivot point to be exactly at that point at the center. Snap it. Okay, good. Then back to front view. Snap it so that it's exactly at the top side, snapping to grid, top side of the floor. Okay, good. Then take the second floor and this circular bit and combine. Done. Delete construction history. Select the outer ring of edges on the circle, inner ring of edges on the square, bridge, linear. Yeah, we're good. Remove the twist by using bridge offset. If you can. Okay, there will be some amount of twist to bridge offset. So let's do this instead. Select the triangles at the center and twist those. It's probably as good as it's going to get. Extrude this piece. Extrude your selection, the triangles. Offset. Delete. insert an edge loop, and that might be a really bad idea. We'll find out when we actually get the texture on it. And then let's look at texture. How did texture change? That's what I thought. So let's apply the same texture, the Phong texture. See, there we go. See, that's what I thought would happen. So now we have to remap this. So let's delete construction history again. Select this plane, go to UV, and choose planar option box, y-axis bounding box. That works. There, fixed. Good. Yeah, we probably don't need these edges. Go ahead, just take those out. I don't really think we need those. And it does, yeah, because the texture's fine. It's a flat object, so it doesn't matter. All right. So that at least gets you a floor, top, and bottom. And then the rest of it would be connecting floor here. So I'm going to fill hole. Ooh, that's bad. Okay, I forgot this is a polygon plane. Fill hole's not going to work. Append to polygon. Let's do append to polygon. So let's grab that polygon, that edge on the other side, and then connect it to this one over here. And I'm trying to find one where if we rotate this circle just right, that will line up with the step. And that's basically what I'm looking for. I want that to line up. All right, continue using append to polygon and fill it in. Work with parallel edge to parallel edge. So start with this long edge here and find a parallel edge there. And then just kind of work your way around. So you don't have to click every edge, just click every other edge. And it should try to capture it. And if it doesn't, just start again and try to capture like so. And then we'll delete edges and use multi-cut to cut it up. Yeah, and then select the long edges here that were created. Control delete those, and then you can use the multi-cut tool to cut this up. Or not. You could leave it alone, right? You could use this as a guide for creating the balustrade or something. So I think from here you can imagine how to do this. And if you're afraid of that change of the texture, because that did ruin it, just go back to UV planar and go with the same thing, bounding box y-axis, and it'll just correct it. I mean, it's pretty easy because the object is flat, so super easy to unwrap. And it's square, very easy to unwrap because it's square and flat. So I finished the whole all the way around, adding edges and supporting edges. I also thickened the floor. You can see there's a bit of thickness, 2 centimeters. And also the bottom floor has thickness. And when you thicken a flat texture like that, it does automatically still have its texture because it's mapped through. So if you want the top side, obviously, to have a different texture, we'll have to treat that differently. I pretty much thickened it for the purposes of rendering so that we can at least see something. Here I've duplicated one of the banisters and renamed it balustrade, and that's going to be used at the top here. It's kind of like the guard rail for the hole so that nobody falls in, right? Oh, you know what? I just realized that this is really silly. I need at least half of this to be deleted, right? Otherwise you're going to hit your head on it. Like that, right? And then I'll just fill in the hole. Great, so that's done. And then I'm going to take this banister to be used as a balustrade, and I'm going to snap it to one of the points on this circle and make just minor changes to the top of it. Basically level it out flat. I'll remove any rotation on the y-axis. There we go. Look at it from the right-hand view. Tag those vertices. Let's rotate those in world space or view space. That works. View space works too. Just tip those towards me. Something like that. Okay, and we can make finer adjustments to it as an instance. And then that piece we will radial array around partially. Group it, Control G. Let's go with the same number of divisions that this circle has, right? That was 44. Let's go with 44. And where did that go? Duplicate special option box. Okay, so let's do the instance leaf nodes. We're not translating, so 0 on that. We want a total of 44. I have 1, so I need 43. And then how many rotations around is that? Over 360 degrees. 8.1818. So let's do 8.182. That should do it. And with the group selected, hit apply. And it should go all the way around. Looks pretty. Then delete the ones at the opening. So all of those. And that one. Keep the floor. Delete those. Then bring a circle into the scene. Right? Primitive circle into the scene. Move that straight up here. Maybe switch to the front view and get it at the same position. Then increase its radius. Looks like we'll have to do that manually. 100. Nice. Then open it sweep. Also give it more sections. Give it 24. And then open it sweep. So it's probably 270. And then rotate it on the y-axis to match first balustrade. Oh, I was a little shy, probably 280. Yeah, 280, at least for me. Find the correct degree for the opening. Same thing, duplicating. Lofting. Right at the top, lofting. Converting. 2. Good. That looks good. Surface. Add that to my surfaces layer. Curves. Add that to my curves layer. And polygon object. Extrude. Thicken 3 one direction. Selecting outer polygon here. Outer polygon. Oops. Shift. I meant to shift double click. Shift double click. There we go. Outer polygon there. Control E. Thicken 3 in the other direction. Go ahead. Delete the ends. Delete the ends. Select the top edge. Translate it up. Arbitrary amount. We're just trying to get for the similar profile as our handrail. I suppose I could have been more intelligent about that, but I think this works pretty good. Then with edge flow, add that. Cap the ends, fill hole. Bevel the ends. Not bevel, extrude the ends. Extrude the ends. Offset them a little bit. multi-cut, multi-cut, little cross pattern there. You don't need edge flow for that. Good. And select edges. Okay, same selection as before, and bevel, bevel, 2 segments, a fraction of, looks like 0.25 was a good one. Subdivision surfaces, apply wood material. Nice. Really nice. Of course, the checker pattern stinks, but it's an easy texture to handle, to deal with right now. Let's just make a small adjustment to the ends of my balustrade handrail. Just select the end of it and move it forward based on component. Maybe not component. Definitely not world, but just over here somewhere. Just past the end a little bit. Yeah, that's good. That's fine. And then insert an edge loop. And let's do the same thing over here. Just come past the end a little bit. That's good. And one final edge loop there. There. Nice detail. Okay. I love it. Let's just do a little detail here. You see how that normal angle is showing black on it? On the inside edge, there you go. That one. Harden just those. Harden the edges. Yeah. You see how it goes away? So when we're not using subdivision surfaces, think about what should be, hard or sharp versus what's soft. This came out well. Some things that could have been done better foresight would have been the one thing. That one thing would have been understanding that I'm going all the way to the second floor, and when I initially created the banisters, to have one banister floating up here that I could have snapped to, and that's where the handrail should have ended, and that would have saved me, 10, 15 minutes of work. Okay, here it is, pretty much completed. We're not going to deal anymore with floor or building construction. This is just the iteration of optics for the spiraling stairwell, and adding the balustrade to it was just fun. The top floor, though, for presentation, I think it would be best if we lost about, if we got rid of most of it. So if we got rid of, say, polygons. Let's say we got rid of most of that. Make sure it's a square selection, and inverted our selection. Yeah, here, select inverse, Control-Shift-I, and delete that, just so that when we're looking at it from this view, that floor isn't too obstructing of our view. I think that's better. We could actually get rid of maybe a little more. Yeah, that's good. So that's just good for presentation, being able to see the cross section, to see the hole that's been created. I think this is good. To repair it, just select top edge all the way around, bottom edge all the way around, and do a linear bridge. And let's apply a different material to the top floor. It seems to be very disruptive visually. Actually, maybe just a different material altogether. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Just changing the colors and taking the texture off the top. So now I'm going to add a light, spotlight, which is just kind of cool, cutting straight down, looking through there. Oh, the shadows. Lovely. And then the shadow color. Oh, you see, that's why this is so nice. All of those lines Look at all those lines just because of smart architecture, or just cool looking architecture, right? I love it. Let's get lights at the floor too, and let's do this as a light source. So as a visible light source. So I think we should get a sphere. Just scale that up, move it over, and something like that. And let's just let's continue the iteration dialogue. Let's group it and instantiate it as a radial array, and this will become our light source. Let's do radial array, not 43. Let's do 20. 20. And what's 2 divided into 36? 18. Okay, so 20 glowing lights at the bottom. That might be too many. That's okay, we can delete half of them if we want to. Okay, so select the... Yeah, that's good. Just move it out to the edge. And now we're going to apply material. Oops. Yeah, you know what? Before you apply a material, select the ball. It looks like I got 2 stacked on the same spot. There we go. I had 2 stacked in the same spot. Also, select the sphere and or all of the spheres. I'm just setting everything else to be referenced. Okay, everything has a layer, including my first floor lights, so I can select all those lights. There we go. And Control Shift right click. No, hold down or tap D key. Control Shift right click, or Control right. Yeah, there we go. Control right click and choose Reset Pivot. So that should reset the pivot for all of them. Good. Now select all of them again and apply a new material and choose the mental ray material MIA material X passes. And then from there go to Advanced, go to Additional Color, and add the mental ray texture MIA light surface. And change FD contribution to 2, reflection contribution to 1, and checkmark use lights. Intensity could be increased as well. Let's try 5. Okay, go back up. Yeah, there we go. And then the color can be whatever color we want it to be. Let's go with something in the fluorescence range. Let's do a test render with final gathering turned on. Quality 1.0, final gathering turned on. Diffuse quality 2.0, scatter quality 2.0. Let's go with Lanthos for the filter. Under configuration, change progressive mode to on. Change faces to front only. Under the common tab, scroll down to the bottom. Render options, turn off the default light. Change the resolution to HD 1080 for a nice big picture. Open up the render view window and change the test resolution to 50%. Go ahead and produce your first test render. Okay, here's our first test render at 50%. We're getting some good color splashing back on the bottom side of the stairwell. A little bit of distance there. Looking pretty good. And it looks like we're getting a little bit of reflection. Let's add another ground plane so we're not, floating in space. Let's make this one really big. 2000, and let's move it down underneath the floor. And just make sure it's actually, right underneath the floor. Okay, and then let's add a dome. Let's add the dome through the render settings, image-based lighting, create, and let's add a texture to it. Let's add the same texture that we used in a previous chapter. Yeah, the Hoover Dam image. Let's use that. Check mark emit light, and also check mark under render stats, check mark primary visibility, so that we can't actually see that dome back there. For the ground plane, I'd like it to be just a little bit more, be a little bit bigger, so that it blocks, when I frame it up close like this, at least it blocks off a certain amount. It's tough, really tough to fit a tall shape like this into a frame. Our only real solution here is to do an L-shaped composition. L-shape meaning like move it off to the side so it's tall on the side, and then something else would go over here. But right now I don't have something else to balance the composition. So for now we'll just say, yeah, that's balanced. Assign a Lambert texture to the ground, and then keep the stairwell and the checkered ground plane in the safe action. And let's go with full resolution on this test and see how we do. Also see how long it takes. Don't forget to save your scene. Alright, so I was just sitting here waiting for this to render, and I canceled it, and I figured out what I want to do in terms of presenting this just by itself. I am going to have it on the left side of the screen here, but also have I'm going to have to do this in Photoshop, but render it again from a top or extreme upward looking angle, and have that image composited over here, or maybe even two more composited over here, so we can see this thing from different angles because it's so big, so that we can kind of summarize it in one picture. Another thing I want to change is to open up the spotlight so that it's not, so I don't see the ring of it. And another thing is to remove these artificial lights that I took time to add in there. And I'm sorry to waste your time in doing that, but in seeing this, I realized with the environment dome, I don't need that stuff down there because I'm getting enough color splashing around. And then the last thing is to just do a slight amount of reflection blur on the floor. So after making the changes that I just listed, this is the final result, and I really like it. I think maybe just one more thing changed, a soft reflection also for the top floor. So I really like how the soft reflection came out on the first floor. And then I'll do another render of it at a different angle, and I'll composite that on the right hand side for a final presentation.